happy to have you here today. We're about to start the show, hooray. Welcome to Amy's Art Cabaret. Also Barb.
Yay, welcome everyone, welcome. And welcome Barb for being with us again, yay. And then I wanted to introduce our special guest and say thank you for not only our guests getting up early, but some of our commenters are already on the stream already because Jane, welcome Jane. And where are you, Jane, right now?
I'm in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, and it's actually 8 o'clock here, so it's not really early.
That's true. According to Australians, it's not early. Everyone I know, yeah. The comments are good. We've got good morning already from Karen. Thank you, Karen. And Karen is the one who asked me to say, ask you to be on the show because she told me all about you. She's got a sewing group in Australia that was started because of the talk you did or something along those lines. And that, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. You could correct me on this, but you have a book that came out that was called Slow Clothing. And I believe Karen is in the book or has a piece in the book.
Yeah, well, Karen's in the book because one of the things that I'm doing as just part of my work is with Reverse Garbage, we have a show called, it's interesting, I can't remember the name of it. That's, I'll look it up in the book while I'm talking to you, but Karen has been in it for the last few years, and that's why she's in the book. It's actually called Worn Out. We didn't have it this year. Yeah, Worn Out. So we're going out and we're wearing our gear, but the idea is that everything can be worn again and upcycled. And we've had it 3 years, and I think Karen's been in it all of those 3 years, but unfortunately it didn't happen this year. I thought about, suggested having virtually Worn Out, but it was just too tricky to organise. So, yeah, Karen's one of our fabulous makers, upcyclers, and doing gorgeous work with mainly plastic and telling a message, like recycling plastic and making it beautiful into beautiful garments. They're fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Karen's been on the show twice and is a personal friend of mine, so I love all her work. Yeah, and her work is how we connected because my partner was following her on Instagram because he was looking for other textile artists and others who make wearables out of whatever they have around like I do myself. And he's like, you would love this artist. And who knew I would actually meet her one day and become friends. And then also Barb does some wearables, not exactly in the same vein as I, but you...
A little different sometimes. And I mean, I hack together some of my old clothes, make them live a little longer. Perfectly clumsy. I'm exceedingly clumsy, so I'm good at patching up the holes that I put in my favorite clothes. But yeah, I make a lot of well, I mean, at this precise moment, I am wearing.
I was going to say your headphones.
Wearables, my headphones. These very old headphones, which the actual normal covering of them wore off. So I crocheted new coverings, and they get lots of comments. Never.
They do, and that's similar to what Slow Clothing is about. I would believe just taking what's around you. But what would your definition be for people who to understand what you're thinking about Slow Clothing, Jane?
Well, personally, I'm a bit like you, making and using what's to hand. And in a way, I've been doing that all my life. But what I've realised is that this is not for everyone. Like what we do is not for everyone. So I had to broaden out the narrative to include other ways, because we're obviously the makers, the upcyclers, just loving to be creative and hacking. I love that word, hacking, because I mean, really, that's kind of all I do. And it's sort of about making things work, and it's not done until you're ready to wear it. So you just have to keep investing your energy in it until suddenly it's done. And then you get to enjoy it until maybe the wheels fall off again down the track and you have another go or turn it into something else. But that's fabulous for people like us. But not everyone thinks the way we do. So that's why when I was looking, this is leadership work for me. My background is in rural leadership. And so that's why I felt, what are other people doing? How can they be sustainable? And that's when I came up with the Slow Clothing Manifesto, which is really, about we're in the adapt, salvage, revive category down the bottom. But you can make from new. You can just care about what you've got, mending it, looking after it to extend the life of it. You can just have a few things and replace them as needs, but not have mountains of stuff the way we were a bit prone to do when we got carried away. And buying local quality natural fibres. But a key thing is just thinking more. And I think we went through a phase where everything was so cheap and available that we just got to, it was party time.
Mm-hmm.
Doing. And I don't know, I quite include myself in that category, and I certainly can't speak for you two, but I think as a society we were forgetting about the environmental footprint of clothing and also the ethics of the global supply chains, because we weren't really aware until 2013, and it hit us in the face with the Rana Plaza factory collapse.
Mm-hmm. No, I think the awareness is definitely key, because when we were all doing our fast fashion, every 6 months something new, we were all excited and into it, but we had no idea where it was coming from. Nobody stopped to think about, where is all this clothing coming from?
Yeah.
And the first time I ever heard anyone say disposable clothing to me, I was offended that I was like, these two words I never put them together before. And it was such an eye-opening moment that someone would say something was disposable in the fashion at the same time. Yeah.
It's very much not, is it? But
it shouldn't be.
One of the, fashion by definition is ever changing, and that's one of the reasons why I felt we needed to be talking about clothing rather than fashion, because clothing had a sense of longevity about it. And when you add flow as an adjective, it creates a narrative around health and well-being rather than status and looks and currency.
Oh, true. And I studied pattern design for a little while there. And if you go back to, I don't know how far you have to go back, but I know from the 16th century for royalty, the people who made, cloth was so expensive. So the people who made the patterns just made them fit and then put seams in places that maybe a seam shouldn't be, but then you put another layer of clothing over that, fabric over that, and you never see it. So it's really interesting to dissect historical clothing in that way, to learn that because that was so expensive, and they only had natural fibers, so it took forever to make them, to get them. And sure, that's not what everybody else was wearing, but they might have been. Who knows what they were doing? So slow pattern making is to just try to use every single centimeter and not throw it away. And if you do have something extra, make something out of it, like I did with my t-shirts here. Yeah. But I thought this was perfect.
It's valuing things, and yes, historic. When you look at in Japan, it's a classic example with the borrow techniques, where whoever controlled the fabric, back before cotton was available, when it was all linen and hemp, that with the stitching to reinforce and continue reusing clothing, bedding and as garments. That shows treasuring. And really what I do with my upcycling, it's not a new thing. It's actually an old thing, so everything old is new again, quite literally, in terms of valuing the natural resources, because we can't just keep producing more. We have to use what we have. And it's really great to see now commercial reuse as well. Like, that's really coming to the fore. I think it's still got some way to go, but at least that it's in the consciousness that people are asking more questions, and brands are starting to focus more on reusing and upcycling.
Are there a lot of small brands that do the upcycling or stuff in Australia? Or bless you, Barb. Are there?
Yes, there are. But one of the difficulties that I see is that it takes time. It takes time to reuse things. So you need to be paying more. People need to be paying more, and that's the difficulty, learning to pay more for something that has the sustainable values that are important. But I think everywhere there are. I noticed Alabama Shannon has got a partnership with Patagonia, where they're reusing the down, with the jackets and things. So there's a whole lot more of that message. Like it is awareness, and people just need to be supporting that by buying it if they're not in a position to do it themselves, like we perhaps are. But I think awareness around climate change, the terrible fires you've had over there. We've had terrible fires here, water shortages, all of that. We've had personal experience of it now, and we need to hear the messaging, from Sir David Attenborough down, about the fact that, and Al Gore, I did the climate reality leadership training, and it's actually our actions and choices that make a difference in the world. And you sort of think, oh, what can one little garment do? But it's actually the accumulation and the multiplication of that has an impact. And we need to be at least trying.
Oh, yeah, totally. Sure. I'm getting distracted by my cat is trying to come over here. He's at the table right now, tearing it apart. Yes. You were going to say something, Barb?
Oh, it was my cats are down here meowing, so
it's meow time in LA. But no, you're correct. You guys had terrible bushfires. Oh my goodness, and we almost the entire West Coast was on fire here. Barb just drove up north. I don't know if you noticed any differences of anything.
Things have toned down quite a bit. From the fires, at least.
But it doesn't go away, does it? It doesn't go away, really. The risk doesn't go away, and the problem doesn't go away.
No, and that is important to remember. It doesn't go away, and we are still in pretty severe lockdown out here. So we can't go outside without masks and all the usual. So I'm using a lot of leftovers to make masks, which is great, but I don't need 20 masks, because I could just wash them. So I think I only have 3. But anyway, it's important to remember these things. And I'm hoping, and I think I recall, Jane, that you said something about, this pandemic, it has given us a chance to slow down, given us more time because we're not commuting or spending all those hours getting ready to go anywhere. I don't even know if any of us are wearing pants right now. It's okay. But, we don't have to spend all this extra time getting dressed and all that stuff. So I think hopefully that's something that we remember to bring with us forward. And what I also think is important is how you said to think about how other people are thinking. Not everyone has money to spend on things. Not everyone has good technology. So I've given some of my time to teach mending classes for free. That'll hopefully enable other people to do that. Although, there's 50% of them want to help and learn, and the others just want you to fix their clothes, you know. But at least they're getting their clothing fixed, you know. It's just, it just takes a while.
Yeah, and it takes time and energy and effort and commitment. And in the fast-paced world we live in, even though, as you say, with the pandemic, things have slowed and it's given us reflection time, I think there's still a lot of people, you know, wanting to move quickly and wanting to have it all. It just depends on the stage of life you're at, really.
Very true.
I guess our children have grown up now and they're off leading their own lives. So perhaps I have more time than others might. But I also think you make time. You make time. You make time for what you want to be doing. So I guess until you really accept that you want to be living an upcycled life, which includes upcycling and reusing and refashioning clothes, you know, you're not sort of there. And that's why we need these other ways of doing it. If you love going out earning a lot of money, then, you know, you've got ways of supporting thoughtful clothing, because commercial brands are doing it for you. So we need to make sure that that's available.
That's true. And I also wanted to touch on Textile Beat. How did that come along?
Well, it was really that. So I grew up loving natural fibres, and that was sort of why I did ag science. And I had a long career as a journalist, rural journalist with the ABC, a national broadcaster, and then newspapers. And then I worked for farm groups and ran advocacy campaigns where, you know, I was really helping them communicate messages that were important to them. And then when the last of our children, of the three, finished school, I realised, well, you know, the urgency about earning and, you know, supporting family wasn't so urgent anymore. And I thought, well, I'd also done some leadership training and reflecting on what was important to me, like what would I be communicating if it was my messages that I was, you know, putting out on the airwaves. And I guess that coincided with the Rana Plaza factory collapse, but actually before then, in 2011, I'd become aware of fashion excess and fashion waste through a Fashion for Flood fundraiser, and I was able to buy 30 shirts, $60 at the end of the evening. I, you know, paid full price earlier on, you know, for a leather jacket and a few other things. But at the end of the evening, everything was $2. So I collected these 30 shirts and I got them home, and it made me, I guess, rediscover op shops. And I started looking around and realising how much was, you know, disposed of, you know, like going to a good place perhaps, but, you know, there's just a level of excess. And then I guess I did a graduate certificate in rural leadership at that time, and I just decided this is where what I need to be talking about and focusing on. And so really it's about textiles, and, you know, the beat is from the heart, you know, like, so I'm working on my values with what I believe in is important. And in 2014, I did a whole year of upcycling. I called the project Sew It Again. So it's sewitagain.com, where I was reusing what I already had, resewing, mending, upcycling. I was still doing a bit of op shopping at that time, but it wasn't that long after that I realised I had too much, you know, too many resources. So that during that whole year, I did a bit of media around that. In fact, the end of 2013, I went on radio and said, well, I wear secondhand clothes and I sew. And that felt a bit shocking and scary to kind of be going public about that after having, you know, had a professional career as in public relations. But I just felt it was important to be authentic and say, well, this is actually what I do, and this is why. And the reasons why were that, you're connected to your clothes. You can get things that work better for your shape than are available commercially. And so that was really where Textile Beat started, with that year-long project. And then I did, some others, and it's just been going on ever since. And I actually won a Churchill Fellowship, and I was meant to be coming to the US earlier this year. So Churchill Fellowships fund people to travel overseas to pursue a project that you basically pitch the project. My project was how upcycling can help reduce textile waste and enhance wellbeing. And I was going to be, spending a couple of weeks in the US, but that's now deferred until travel becomes possible. And I was going to be going to Europe and the UK as well. So now,
nice.
Yeah, and one day it might happen. Just never know.
Oh yeah, Karen brings up something I hadn't thought about, but I was thinking about this in relation to people who don't have that much money. But yes, you'll save money by fixing your own stuff. That's very true.
There's a fair amount of reuse for a lot of folks who who are lower income.
Correct.
Already.
You don't have a choice. Yeah.
You don't have that choice. There's also, though, you also have to pay attention as well to the fact of the time being something that you're spending in it.
The time to go get it.
Is time to mend things, to acquire things that you need to get. Time is another resource that not everybody always has.
Do you fix something, or do you spend that $3 to get that new dress? And I'm not talking even an op shop. I'm talking those big fast. I don't know if they probably have them in Australia. The big fast fashion, cheap knockoffs of H&M and Macy's and stuff. And the clothes are like $5 and under. And they'll last about 2-3 wears, maybe. I don't know. They don't stay together very well at all. And they're usually all synthetic and stretchy.
Yes, we definitely have them. In fact, 2/3 of new clothing is synthetic now, and that's one of the other big concerns that I had as I started making observations and researching the figures, that it was not, environmentally it's terrible. But just to refer to Karen's point, I mean, that is really important. But I guess part of the reason why I don't focus on it is sometimes people dismiss you, because, you're just a cheap state. So I tend to talk about the creative values and the environmental impacts because they're not so easily dismissed as the idea that you want to save money. But yes, it makes sense to save money because it means you can spend it on something else, even if you're not urgently needing it to live by. Where you put money, where you spend your money, is the action that you're supporting, really. And I guess that's why it's great to see some of the, the bigger brands doing upcycling, because people can put money there if they've got surplus and they don't want to be doing it themselves.
It's true. And so I just was recently, when was your talk? Last week? The week before? I was able to attend, because of the pandemic, here's a silver lining, I was able to attend a workshop in Australia that Jane was at, which was exciting. And I remember, we have more people on here. I remember you not only showed a slide, but you had other points of your history, and you just brought up your leadership, which I thought is exciting. But how do we even get to that point? Like, Barb, do you feel that you're a leader in slow clothing?
In slow clothing? No.
Yeah. Do you feel you're a leader in upcycling?
Perhaps. I think I think I am in some ways a leader in making, and that is a very integral part of how I approach and we approach all making. But not that is not the immediate like primary aim. It's an act. Words.
Words.
It's a critical part of it, but it's not the main aim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you that when I was doing a leadership course, one of the things was we had 2 weeks in the Kimberleys in Northwest Australia, which a bit outward bound like experience. And one of the pivotal learnings I had from that was when somebody said to me that leadership is an action that you take. It's not a position you hold. So leadership is actually action. And by doing and showing and demonstrating our values, we're doing leadership. Leadership happens at all sorts of levels. We kind of think that, it's the big people, but actually anyone can be a leader at any level in any role they take. So I would suggest that you're all doing leadership because, we're there, we're talking about other ways of living and doing, and we're showing a different way that works for us, and also other people can see, we don't have to just follow what the business directive sort of is driving us on. And I just noticed in the comment that Diane says that, there are lots of small businesses that upcycle clothes and sell them on. Yes, definitely. And that's great, like often selling at markets or online now. And that's the thing about the pandemic. Suddenly online became, so much more of a focus, I guess. But one of the things personally I like to be able to touch and feel things because that's actually important to me. It's probably why I value the natural fibres, because I just don't like the feel of synthetic. And you can often tell if something's is a blend, because it's just not quite right to touch. So, yeah, and markets are a great place for people, for smaller people, smaller brands to be upcycling. And Diane also mentions that upcycling, bespoke upcycling, where people bring something to you and, ask you to alter it for them, which is great. And I know I've got a friend, Satisha, down in northern New South Wales, and she says she's never been busier with like doing that for people where they want their clothes altered. So in a way, that's a return to how things used to be too, where, you had more focus on dressmakers and tailors, altering to make them work for you. Whereas I guess I sort of like having a go myself, and the more you try, the more successful you can become. Although not that
totally.
I only do it for myself, but you learn by doing. You learn by doing it and immersing in it, and accepting that sometimes it doesn't always work out, but learning from that so that next time you try something and you learn more about the different fibres and the way they behave on the grain or on the bias and all that sort of thing.
Oh yes, I just had someone who made a gator mask, which you put over your neck and pull up, and they made it for someone, and they cut the first piece of fabric, and that was good, and then they cut the second piece and they put it on and realized the grain was going the wrong way, so it wouldn't stretch anymore, and they couldn't actually pull it up. And they were doing perfect because they were trying to use the scrap of fabric. They're like, it fits right here, but they forgot which way the stretch went. Which you learn from doing, and so they had to cut a new piece. So yeah, and I think that's perfect. I think altering clothes for me has personally been how I figure out how things work together. Because you got to take it all apart and then try to cut off what you don't need and put it back the way it was. But if you don't pay attention, you don't remember how it was. Yeah,
it's quite a complicated one. Making clothes is complicated. There's lots of different skills and aspects to it that we don't understand unless we've made something for ourselves or attempted to make something. And the main thing there, like with that mask, is just not accepting that as failure and investing that extra bit of time to do it differently to make it work. I think that's an important barrier that you need to cross if you want to continue on this pathway. And it's about accepting imperfection.
Oh, totally. My first lesson to everyone sewing is the seam ripper is your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take everything apart that you're trying to put together because it's just something's going to be weird and wonky, and that's okay if it fits you, but if it doesn't, you have to fix it. So I also wanted to share, you have a video that I believe Barb can pull up for us, called The Maker Within, and you have the little talk and a little bit about t-shirt yarn in there that I think's important.
Yes, I did that for Women of the World. We were meant to be having a face-to-face conference earlier this year, and it was cancelled, so they did an online one, and they wanted a technique. So this was sort of one of my COVID projects, I guess. But yes, if you wanted to play that gives us something to talk about with the T-shirts. They're so useful.
They are.
Okay, so I'll put this up. You will not be able to hear us while we are playing. Okay, here we go.
There is a maker inside us all. People often speak of the soothing and satisfying nature of making for relaxation, reward, and reinvention. In earlier times, working with our hands was how we explored and became connected to the world around us. Then with industrialisation and the feminist movement, many of us shifted away from making and towards higher status thinking careers. Working with our hands was often associated with home-based domestic work, and we didn't want to be trapped there. During my career, I kept quiet about my making, and then I found a way to integrate it with more thoughtful work by exploring strategies to reduce textile waste and be more engaged with what we wear through making, mending, reviving, adapting, and salvaging resources. I'm wearing old T-shirts that I refashioned and eco-dyed in 2015, and a medallion, which is merino offcuts eco-dyed. Makes me feel independent and individual. I'd like to show you how to make yarn from old T-shirts that are surplus to society's requirements. But first I'll share some photos of a couple of pandemic projects I did using T-shirt yarn on a chair and in the garden as mulch, and also some photos of accessories that I've made earlier as workshop examples, and a video about slow clothing philosophy made by Finn Buckle.
My love for nature is expressed in my love for natural fibres. I enjoy how they feel, so comfortable to touch and wear. I studied agricultural science and worked in journalism and communications before leadership study led me to slow clothing philosophy. In 2011, I noticed fashion excess and learned we buy up to 4 times what we need. In fact, Australians are the second largest consumers of textiles in the world. A lot is wasted. 6,000 kilograms of textiles and clothing go to landfill every 10 minutes. It's concerning that 2/3 of new clothes are made from synthetic fibres, polyester and acrylic. They're derived from petroleum and shed microplastic into our ecosystem. These are some of the reasons I set up Textile Beat in 2013 to share ideas for sustainable, ethical and creative ways of dressing. Our clothes do for us on the outside what food does inside. They protect and warm our bodies and influence the way we feel and present to the world. My book, Slow Clothing, Finding Meaning in What We Wear, is about how we choose, wear and care for clothes so they bring value, meaning and joy. It brings together everything I know about living lightly through everyday practice. Responsible choices and actions that we can take are to think more, choose natural fibres, buy quality local and not too many clothes, take care of what we have by mending, repairing, and learn to make, revive, adapt and salvage. We share these ideas through slow clothing talks, workshops and community activities. We learn how to make a difference through our everyday choices, because when we dress for health and well-being rather than status and looks, we become mindful and resourceful, more conscious of what we wear and the impact it has on our world.
The COVID-19 lockdown gave pause for some of us not required at the front line to explore making and creating with our hands, gardening, cooking, baking, sewing, knitting, mending clothes. We're ready for more conversation about slower living, adaptation and resourcefulness, using our hands, head and heart to create change. While industrial solutions for textile waste problems may emerge, repurposing what is to hand using our energy is a valid activity. T-shirt yarn can be used for lots of creative projects to knit, weave and crochet. Some T-shirt offcuts can be used as face cloths or makeup wipes, and the sleeves can be made into little pouches or even beanies. So this is a T-shirt I got from the op shop for $2, but you might have some that are damaged in your own wardrobe, and this is a way to give them another life. I cut the bottom off because it behaves differently. I just want a consistent start. So I've folded them across here, not quite matching the side seams. I've sped the video up a bit just to move through the process. You can make these as wide as you like, these strips. Maybe 1 centimetre is probably the narrowest. 2 centimetres, even 3 centimetres wide is fine. There are 2 different types of T-shirts material. One's rib knit, and it'll look the front and the back the same. This one I'm cutting up here is actually a jersey knit, and they're the ones that roll beautifully. The rib knits don't roll. The other point to bear in mind is this particular T-shirt doesn't have side seams, and they're the ideal ones. But if you've got side seams, it works just as well, particularly if it's a well-made T-shirt. You'll just end up with a bit of stitching in the join. If it happens to pop at a side seam, you just make a knot, and then the knots become a feature of whatever you're working with on this. I'm stretching it to help it roll up here, and then to make it into a little ball, you just do a few times and then keep moving it around until you obviously it's turning into a ball. That's a great way to be able to store it until you need it. And yeah, there you are. So what we can make from the same T-shirt is we can use the sleeve to make a little bag. You might want to carry your peanuts in it, or your goggles, or anything that needs containing. So I just cut beyond the sleeve shoulder join about 1 centimetre along that side, and that's what you stitch. So we're going to turn it inside out, and then we're going to run a gathering thread with a needle and thread here. Just going to join this up. It doesn't have to be that tight or neat because it's all pulled in at the bottom here. So I've sped the video up again here. So we're just doing a gathering thread to pull in the bottom of the bag, just running a needle and thread through a few times, pulling it together to secure the bottom and tighten up
the base of the sleeve so that it becomes a pouch. And then we turn it in the right way, and then all that gather is in the inside of the pocket or the little pouch, and it looks nice and neat on the outside. You do a little snip either side of the side seam there, and then take a piece of the yarn that you've just made, put a safety pin on the end of it, and then what I'm doing is feeding the safety pin through the base of the finished sleeve of the sleeve piece itself. And the idea is to be using all the finished edges and using all the pieces of the T-shirt that you can. Once that's through, you tie a knot so that you've basically got a drawstring on the little bag.
And we can actually put this yarn in it. Safekeeping.
That's so great. I love how simple it was to make the T-shirt yarn. That was my favorite part of the video.
Yeah, it is easy, but it's interesting because I wasn't very articulate. Clearly, we hadn't been talking to so many people, and I reflect back on that and think there were some words that I wasn't able to find there when I needed them.
That happens to all of us. Yeah, but I also thought it was really important to show how easy it is to make, because they're selling T-shirt yarn now. You could just make it yourself. You don't need to go purchase T-shirt yarn. I'm not totally against purchasing it if you don't have any spare, but you could go to the op shop or thrift stores and just buy some really cheap T-shirts if you don't have any. Or what I do is just tell some friends what I'm looking for. I've told Barb if I need something, and then all of a sudden we have a slew. We have too many of what we need, but then we can hand those out to other people.
Yeah, and there seems to be so many T-shirts and event T-shirts and all sorts of things, and more coming. And sometimes they are a bit damaged, under the arm and things like that. Like, you can understand why people are throwing them away, but yeah, it's a great way to be reusing, and I find they're fabulous in the garden for tying things up to green fences, vines and tomatoes and that sort of thing. I use them quite a lot for that.
Well, that's a good idea. I made ornaments with scraps once. Inside I put cracker, like paper boards. I cut up some crackers. I made a palm tree just because of LA. And the Christmas tree, and I've had these for years. And this T-shirt was a T-shirt that was given to my partner for the job he had, and then it got bleach all over it, so they gave him a new one. I was like, you don't need to throw this away. I'm going to use this. But there's all, it could be decorative. It could be the garden, like you said. Barb's got lots of T-shirt yarn. I've seen her use some from the masks around the ears.
Oh yeah, it's really good for that.
It's nice and soft. Yeah.
I was just trying to get I've got this is not T-shirts. This is an old power cord for a phone charge that I'm going to attach this onto something so it can be an earring.
Oh, let's look. Look at your earring. Hold it up. Oh, so it looks like we could plug you in, but we can't.
Yeah. Well, and then both sides. This is the USB side. This is the the lightning side.
The micro mini side. Yeah. So electronic use. Yeah, because you can't recycle all those.
No, once it doesn't work anymore, it's. There are possibilities. I think probably this is the side that's busted. This one could potentially be attached to something else. But yeah,
that's if you want to rewire it.
If you want to redo all that, yeah.
I don't know. Jane, do you think you're going to get into engineering and rewiring things, electronics?
There's so much of it, isn't there? I think it's really exciting. Because, it all took resources in the first place, and it actually tells a story of something meaningful. and people can see your value straight away by what you're wearing. But it's interesting to try and get that art element in it, because I'm not trained in art or design or anything. I've sort of just learnt as I go along. And I find there's something about, one of my friends, Meg, who used to make jewellery, she's made some lovely earrings for me. And in terms of trying to get that design values, I'm not quite there yet. And I guess that's why there are professionals. But I think it's fun. Like, I just think wearing things for fun, like those earrings, would be great, because they tell a story. And the wire is so fabulous to work with, isn't it? You can bend it quite easily and manipulate it easily. And
for sure.
Found somewhere where you can actually, where you can buy the hardware that you need to attach it to. Is that how you did it, Barb, or did you actually make the earring?
Did you make the hook, or did you buy it?
No, neither.
Neither.
My ears are gauged, so I have holes through my ears. So I actually dug out some screws that will actually just fit through my.
Oh my goodness! Everyone, Barb is part robot.
And so then you can attach it to that, and you just put like a screw through your ear.
A nut on the other side to keep it there, so it doesn't fall out. Yeah,
totally.
We're learning something new. It's perfect. And before the pandemic, I used to go around picking up all sorts of things I'd find that people dropped that I could use. But now I'm not picking them up because I don't know whether or not, it's been 72 hours since anyone touched them, But I know that people are still doing cleanups, and the guest we had on, Marina, who does wearables with stuff that she finds and pulls out of the ocean in Sydney. She's leaving stuff for 2 weeks before she starts using it, but she used to use it right away. Because you just don't know.
Perfect name for that.
That is her name.
I did a lot of my gathering before COVID, so I've got a lot of stuff here on hand to use. But yes, I mean, that's obviously just a period of time.
Yeah, you just got to be careful. But I mean, one of the reasons as an artist and a creative that I started the show is because I have a plethora of supplies that I need to get through. I have more than enough. I have too much. So I'm going through and giving stuff to others who need some, and just making stuff. As Barb is doing right now. Did you put your earring in?
No, I had to take the screw out so that I could attach the wires to the screw, and then I'll be able to wear it.
Very cool. We should do an episode on electronic scraps and wearables.
E-waste reuse. Yeah.
E-waste jewelry. Yeah. Oh.
It's a thing.
We love it. We're going to take it to Australia when we're ready.
There you go.
So Jane, we have 6 minutes, which seems like a lot of time and not a lot of time at the same time. For anyone who has any fears about getting started, did you have any, and how do you get past them? Because when you make something, you see the mistakes that you've made.
And I think it's actually, it's working out how to get past that, accepting that life is not perfect. So the first time you try and do something, it's unrealistic to think you're going to be able to do it perfectly. And I think there's a learning in that in itself. So to me, upcycling is actually the approach that I've taken to it, is that it's play-based. So, you just turn things upside down on the side, have a think, sleep on it. That's often a good thing as well. And I think everybody has to start somewhere, and it's only through the doing that you learn and you can get better. Like that's life, isn't it? Like it's doing something 100 times and you're going to be better than when you start. So I think it's having realistic expectations, and it actually does take time as well. So you need to realise that you can't get, and I often find this with councils and things like that want to have a workshop, you know, and they'll give you an hour or an hour and a half, and it's just kind of, you know, that's, you just scratch the surface in that time. It's hard to get a product, for everyone to get a product in that time. And to me, it's actually about sharing the idea of we go on our own exploration, like we are exploring the resources around us. And I think in life today, almost everything is designed for us. You know, it's all there ready for our consumption. Whereas what I'm trying to share with upcycling is actually, there's learning and there's fun, there is calming, there's connection to actually doing it yourself. And so there's no rule book, and that's scary to a lot of people, that I'm actually, you know, you're asked to just have a go, just to play, test things all the time, see what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's scary, where we grew up, where we can just go and buy stuff. You see a finished result, oh, yes, I'll just have that. You know, you don't have to think too much about it. You know, it's right there for you to buy. But the problem with that is that, you know, when you tire of it, you know, it just goes out the door, and we've realised that we need to get more involved and engaged in reusing. And, you know, making do is a classic expression which sort of undervalues it a bit. I think it's more than that. To me, it's actually about being resourceful and the satisfaction that comes from being resourceful. But, you know, we are kind of judged whether we like it or not. You know, we're judged by what we're wearing and what we're doing, and you kind of have to harden up around that and think, well, if I like it, it's okay, you know. But that does take a certain amount of maturity to and self-acceptance to hold that thought when other people are thinking, oh, God, she looks a little strange today. But to think about is that as long as it's comfortable and it's modest, I kind of think, well, what's wrong with having bits coming off? And to a certain extent, like, design's got a bit wild there for a while, and, you know, it's okay to have bits dangling here and there. And, you know, I find it a bit hard when you've got to keep adjusting it. But what I'm wearing at the moment, which you can't probably see, but it's a compilation of 5 silk garments. 4 I got from the op shop and 1 was from my own wardrobe. And I've just re-sewn it together in a really simple way, where it's 2 squares and a rectangle. And then the sleeves are sort of inserted afterwards, so they're rectangles as well. But I mean, I've made it so that it's comfortable and it's loose. And this is what I do, #Adventures of the Red Dress. So I should, while you're there, get a photo so that I can share that. This is heading towards about the 30th adventure of the red dress, I think. So just bear with me while I take a photo so that I can share that later.
Yeah.
How many times I wear this? Obviously, down the track, I'll probably have to start mending it. I find it's loose fitting, but round the neck, obviously, is where it gets more wear than, you know, because it rubs against your skin there. So eventually I might have to replace the bias binding that I made, you know, for the neckline, but I've just kept a bag of scraps that were left over, and, you know, if it needs patching, I can keep adding that on. So, you know, it's got character, it's got life, it's got a story, and I think we need that story about connection and ownership and origin to make things meaningful for us. And I think that's the hollowness of going to the shop and just buying what you can find. It's a bit of an empty act. And I think we're waking up to all of that the shopping is not, it doesn't actually satisfy you. It's empty calories. You know, it's a bit like I see mentions about the fast food, being cheap and basically nasty, not good for you. And it's the same with any cheap thing that you buy, whether it be clothing. It doesn't have any meaning, so you're not attached to it. You're not inclined to want to look after it. If it's not well made, it's sort of, it comes with bad energy, I think. I think it is all about energy, whereas you invest your own energy in being creative, reusing beautiful natural fibres. You have a sense of ownership and pride in that, and I think that makes it worthwhile.
Oh, I agree. I love the idea of the energy. It's you. So you'll walk down the street like this. Yeah, I made this red dress. And then you'll get someone will compliment you, and that'll just be even better. Yeah.
I wear it, and I remember this. I was asked to be part of a panel with some fashion students at one point, and it's the first time I'd been at that sort of a situation, and there were about 7 or 8 industry people, and I don't consider myself to be from fashion industry because it's not my background at all, but suddenly I was asked to be there, and I saying what you do, and I just say, I stood up and said, well, I'm wearing secondhand clothes that I refashioned, and this man who looked fantastic himself, just the way he was dressed, and he said, and you look fabulous in it too. And it feel good because I guess I wasn't sure about my place in the scheme of things, but it is how you wear it. It's actually, if you wear it with pride, which is what you tend to feel when you get past that barrier of imperfection and it's not good enough, feeling not good enough. Well, it is good enough when you made it yourself and you put your own energy in it and you reject the judgment of others. Like, that's where we all need to be in life, is to not be worrying about what other people are thinking about us, because our opinion needs to matter most. And when you're doing good things, like, you are with your reusing and creating and sharing ideas, well, that gives you the sense of pride and well-being that I think we're all searching for. We're all on a bit of a search for meaning, and we've been sold a pup in thinking that going out and buying the latest and looking the greatest is worth anything. It's only worth it to the shallow people who are interested in that sort of thing, not the real people who like to get hands-on and who like to be, kind to themselves and to others and the planet. And that's really coming to the fore now, that's the reason why we would do it. And we all need to be taking these individual actions.
To bring us back to the planet and back to Barb's earrings and your dress and my earrings that I made and all sorts. Yeah, just make something, wear it, you'll be surprised. Or don't wear it, just leave in your closet and just look at it to inspire you to keep making until you feel confident enough to wear that garment. Yeah.
Yes, and using it as decoration in your home, you can hang on doorknobs and things like that. Just
exactly.
For sure.
To look at.
Or on your ears. Barb, these earrings are getting better and fabulous. Let's look at them before we head out. Oh,
they're gorgeous. Yeah.
That one needs a back.
That's all right. That's perfect.
I need to solder them onto the actual screws, I think.
Well, as Barb gets out her soldering tools, Jane, thank you again for being on. Thanks for talking to us from the future. And we too know that Sunday will be great and sunny now that we've met you. So thank you. Yes, and I hope we all get to talk again in the future, and maybe even in person one day. But have a lovely rest of your day. And everyone who's watching now, thank you so much for watching. And those watching the recording, thank you also. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Great, thanks. See you later.
Bye.